The early 90s saw the craft brewing movement in the US begin to really take hold. The number of microbreweries and brew pubs began to soar across the country, with iconic brands such as Sam Adams and Sierra Nevada leading the charge. Berkshire Brewing Company, or BBC as it's more commonly known locally, was established in 1994 in the town of South Deerfield, Massachusetts, where it remains today. If you're from New England, and especially Massachusetts, then you're familiar with the BBC's flagship beer, Steel Rail Extra Pale Ale. Steel Rail has become a staple across the state, so common in Packies it's been called the Coors Light of Massachusetts. Renowned beer writer Lou Bryson once said, "Steel Rail is what water and heaven ought to taste like." So today we are brewing our Steel Rail inspired pale ale, Green Line. This brew started like any other. I got busy measuring and milling the grains the night before. Checking the gap. This is important because you want to do it before and after you run the grains. I've run into problems with this. They will slide slightly. For this brew, we're going with 85% Golden Valley Pale Malt, 7.5% Munich, 5% Crystal 20, and 2.5% Carapils for a little added body. We weren't using a lot of hops, but we were adding them frequently. We started off with 0.1 ounce of Warrior at 60 minutes as our bittering hop, 0.5 ounces of Cascade at 20 minutes, 0.65 ounces of Willamette at 10 minutes, and followed that up with a 0.6 ounces of Cascade with 5 minutes left in the boil. After that, it was on to the salt additions. We're shooting for 100 ppm of calcium, 17 ppm magnesium, 41 ppm sodium, 92 ppm chloride, 101 ppm sulfate, and 117 ppm bicarbonate. Now that bicarbonate number is just high because that's a byproduct of our tap water here. Then the next morning, Keith came over early and we got the mobile brew house out of the basement and got it set up. This recipe called for 10 gallons of water, and we're just using our tap water here, which we have had tested. Once we got to about 100 degrees on our strike water, we added our brewing salts. I like to wait till we get up to about 100 degrees. It helps the salts dissolve in the water better. Once we got up to strike temperature, we pushed over about 5.5 gallons of water to the mash tun to preheat and get the cold out of the steel. Once the temperature stabilized, we pushed the water back into the kettle to reheat back to strike. Then it was time to add the grist. A paint mixer on the end of a cordless drill makes short work of the mixing. Then it was time to underlet and push the strike water back in through the bottom of the mash tun. Once the grains are hydrated, we'll give it another good mix to get rid of any dough balls that may have been created during the underletting. The remainder of the water in the kettle gets pushed over to the hot liquor tank, where we'll keep it at 170 degrees using an electric water heater. Nailed our mash temperature of 152 degrees. After 10 minutes, I took a pH sample and hit our pH of 5.4. Now this is where things started to go wrong. We're doing a conversion test right here using iodine, and as you can see, it's black, which means we have incomplete conversion. We checked our sugars and they came back on target, so we decided to start our first Vorlauf. The theme for this brew was American light lagers, and here we got started with some Bud Light. After Vorlaufing for 10 or 15 minutes, we started with first runnings. You can see it got quite a bit clearer through after the Vorlauf. Then it was time to push our sparge water back into the mash and mix up the sparge. On to our next one. This was Miller Lite. Second Vorlauf. And I think this was Coors Light. And here it looks like we're making Mick Ultra. The traditional pizza came and we washed it down with some Puck Lager. Then it was time to clean the mash tun. Once we hit boil, we called Glenn in for our first hop addition. This was the Warrior Edition. The mighty 0.1 ounces of hops.
That's it?
Waste not.
It was warmer this brew day, but it still was pretty chilly to be playing with the hose. And since we were brewing a steel rail inspired beer, we figured we ought to have some steel rail. Keith hit us up with our 20-minute edition, and Glenn with our 10-minute edition. We alternated because I didn't want to wear the guys out with these big hop editions. and Keith following up with our 5-minute hop edition. I pulled 300 or 400 milliliters of wort out and mixed up our yeast to start hydrating it. Then I pulled a sample to get our OG. We circulated the boiling wort through the hop spider to get some extraction and sanitize the system. Come on, that's a Bob and Doug McKenzie reference.
Good day, eh?
Good day, eh?
What are you doing? I said, this is my brother Doug. You're supposed to say good day. What?
And it was time to chill.
Whoa! Jeez, yeah, a little hot steam. Again. Hot steam. You fucker.
Get it?
Yeah, the hot steam. You always get that hot steam blast out.
Once we chilled down to about 65 degrees, it was time to pump out of the kettle and into a sanitized fermenter. For this one, we ended up with almost 6 gallons in the fermenter. Then it was time to pitch our rehydrated yeast and oxygenate with pure oxygen. Time for the fermenter hat and let the yeast do their magic. I was worried about the unconverted starch, but fermentation went well, and when it slowed, we pushed up to 70 degrees for our diacetyl rest, and it took off and ran down to terminal gravity. Once we were done, I sanitized a keg. Got to get all that sanitizer out. I took a final gravity sample. I hooked up a new filter and did a closed loop transfer. Now it's time for cold crashing, carbonation, and some time on the keg. Be sure to check out our next taproom video where we taste this pale ale.